Update webinar. I'm Yomika Bennett, the Executive Director of the New York Charter Schools Association. I'm joined today by Anna Hall, CEO, Northeast Charter Schools Network, David Frank, Executive Director of the Charter Schools Office at NYSID, Susie Corrello, Executive Director of the SUNY Charter Schools Institute, Lori Hazley, Senior Director, Charter Authorizing and Accountability at New York City DOE, will join us shortly, and Corey Callahan, General Counsel and VP of Legal Policy at New York City Charter Center, as well as Aaron Cochran from New York City DOE. Welcome, everyone. I'm going to start with a state budget update. All but one of the budget bills are out. The legislature is still voting on these bills, as a matter of fact, as we speak. For charters, the highlight is that the tuition formula returns to the formula that's in current law for the 2021-22 school year. Again, that's an existing law, and I believe that's the first time in years that the formula was advanced as is. And so if anybody wants to correct me on that, I'm happy to be corrected, and you can drop that in the chat. The per pupil tuition will get a little bump this year, and we have updated tuition calculator on our website, so you should see that. So, and I don't know if we dropped the link in the chat. So it's a little jump. I see that Stacy. Looking to that, we've returned sort of to, I guess, to the normal or new normal. Somebody again, correct me if I'm wrong. Despite our best efforts across the charter community, however, throughout the state, the proposals to allow reissuance of charters, also known as pick your name here, so-called zombies, or for the cap lift or the cap shift, that did not make it into the education budget bill, nor did our efforts to get some funding for upstate facilities. But even though the budget is wrapping up, and session will continue through June, so there's a lot more time to continue to advocate for great schools. We will continue to advocate for access to quality charter schools. We ask you to all continue to reach out to legislators who represent your districts, share the good word about your schools, keep in contact with us as we put forth more initiatives. Encourage you to represent and continue the advocacy. And please, as always, continue to share out the good work that is happening in your schools. We continue to monitor changes to the guidelines regarding the distance between students required for social distancing. As we mentioned on our previous webinar, the CDC guidance now says that 3 feet between students who are wearing masks is sufficient. However, New York State Department of Health as of now has not yet updated its own guidelines. They should be doing that within the week, according to the governor. In the meantime, New York City has changed the 2-case rule, and I'm sure that Corey and Aaron will speak to that in greater detail in a bit. We continue to field questions about federal funding, and so we will be hosting a webinar during this time slot on April 27th. Again, I'll just repeat that. We will be hosting a webinar on federal funding on Tuesday at this time, 4 o'clock on April 27th. Be on the lookout for more information and the Zoom link. In the meantime, the National Alliance has launched a campaign advocating for CSP funding. If you are interested in participating, you can do so by clicking on the link we are dropping in the chat. Finally, we're excited to announce that the association is offering an Aspiring Educator Scholarship for charter high school seniors who are interested in pursuing a career in education. More information is available in the link that we're dropping in the chat. All right, that's what I have for updates. Lori, Susie, David, welcome. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying the beginning of this year. And do you have any updates for our team? Excuse me, from your team, excuse me. Happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday. David, I'll dive in. I've just got 2 quick ones. The 21-22 school budgets are due June 30th to the Institute. So Barb and Connor and John and team asked me to remind you the guidance on the website and the spreadsheets or the templates on the website utilize that flat per pupil until NYSID issues their official 21-22 rates, and then we can update them. And then the other piece is there's a facility questionnaire. Each Ed Corp has a facility questionnaire. If you would be so kind as to complete those just to confirm sites, notify the Institute of any facility changes for the upcoming school year. Thanks so much.
And SED always publishes the official tuition rates for charter schools in May. So those will be, SED will start doing those runs. And so don't expect to see them this month, though. They always come out in May. Lastly, we sent a draft local assessment plan. We emailed it out to Board of Regents authorized charter schools for reporting local and interim assessments starting this academic year. We're leaving it out for public comment until next week. So if you are a Board of Regents authorized charter school only, and you're interested in taking a look, it was sent out via email, but you can also take a look at the policy on our website. And I gave the link in the chat. That's all I have for updates.
All right, great. Thank you both very much. Hi, Lori. Welcome. Just in time for the update. Do you have an update for us?
Hi, everyone. My apologies for being late. I do not have any updates today.
All right, great to see you. All right, so that's what we have. Let's see what I was going to say. So I'm going to flip it over to you. I think there might be one or two questions that I have. I'll be honest, we'll have to check to see if they're still relevant, budget-based or otherwise. I'm going to flip it to you to take questions from the Q&A.
Totally, yeah, lots going on today. And one thing that I will, at the risk of pulling the pin out of a grenade, that I haven't seen in the Q&A yet, but if it doesn't come up, I think we should use the opportunity to at least raise it, which is the New York City DOE announcement that state tests will be opt-in for New York City DOE schools. So essentially having schools make parents aware of the tests and giving them the opportunity to elect to take them, whether their students are remote or in person. So again, at the risk of ceding the field, I'll throw that out there and give everyone a think minute while we go to some of the questions that are in the Q&A. So David, I see that in the Q&A, you're interested in speaking to this question. So if a student turns 21 in July, so just to be clear, age is out after the end of this academic year. Could a school bill for them in the 21-22 school year? So the person asking the question says, I believe schools were given an extension to keep students that are 21 from the 1920 school year, but there was a memo that they can't find. David, it looks like you have thoughts.
So Donna from New Dawn, that's actually a great question. And I gave the link to the memo, which came out in June of 2020 in the chat. So the link is there. And that was actually for the 2021 school year, not the 1920 school year. So for the 2021 school year, if you had a student who maybe couldn't graduate because of the pandemic and they aged out, schools like New Dawn serve overage undercredited students. So this comes up often. You were able to keep them enrolled. SED will shortly be sending out additional guidance, regarding this for the 21-22 school year, but I don't have any information about that yet. I would say keep your eyes peeled, and I'll make sure that this gets to our overage undercredited high schools like New Dawn.
And if I could just, at the risk of sort of extending and adding on, as my my charter students would say, is there anything prohibiting a school from keeping that student enrolled, but for the fact that they wouldn't receive payment? Or is that the subject for a future memo?
Well, we have, what I would say is we have schools that do keep students after they turn 21. They're not, in normal times, they're not eligible for the per pupil tuition. But I would say that it's a gray area. We do have schools that issue diplomas to those students, but there's no official guidance or stance from SED regarding that, but it does happen.
That's helpful. So David, if you don't mind me sticking with you, a follow-on question to the local assessment reporting memo that you mentioned. So what are schools expected to do in terms of what the memo is requesting? My read is that right now the memo is just about open comment, but you want to speak to the sort of second question here, which is, do we only report on data that we do or will have from assessments that we were or are able to administer?
So first, I would just caveat, this is only for Board of Regents authorized charter schools. And although I know the other authorizers are pursuing similar initiatives, all we're asking, well, right now, you're absolutely correct. We're just asking for public comment. Take a look at the memo. The link is in the chat. If you have public feedback, we'd love to hear it so we can improve the process. And we plan to wrap up that public comment period next week. In the memo, all we're asking schools to do differently is report the data from the local assessments or interim assessments that you're already administering and that are already part of your charter. So in the memo, you'll see that we tell schools, go back, look at your charter. You've made some promises to your community and to the Board of Regents as to what local assessments you'll be administering. Pick one ELA and math assessment and report it to us. But these are assessments you should already be using and administering. We're not asking you to do anything different other than report the data to us.
And so one of the questions, we had a fascinating series of data listening tour conversations with the data persons from many of your all schools, which was just so fruitful. And one of the questions that was asked on this front was the difference between formative assessments versus end of year other sorts of assessments. So this idea, and I think the question was specifically related to NWE MAP initial assessments, and this like the guidance that NWEA even gives to allow a student to take the test multiple times. Does in your saying like if it's in your charter, pick something and report it, are you all looking at the different types of assessments and the times of year in which they're given? I think people are very nervous about accountability and submitting assessments that in some cases are, are not summative.
You're absolutely right, and that is a concern. We're using this data and in the memo, it lays this out, which benchmarks we're using this information for. So we're using it, for example, for benchmark 2, which is teaching and learning, to ensure that you're using assessment data or you're using academic data to help drive instructional decision-making, period. We're using it to supplement, not supplant, but supplement existing state data, academic data that we have, to help schools demonstrate that academic growth is occurring during a period of time where our state assessment program because of the pandemic, had to change. And so we'll continue to have conversations with schools about what we use it for, but schools should rest assured that it's not a sole decision point. It's not a sole determinant of what a school's renewal term will be. At the end of the day, we're looking to make sure that there's growth and longitudinal growth. We're not comparing your academic data to anyone else but you. So we're not going out and finding other schools that are administering iReady and saying, okay, compared to this district or this school, you're in this percentile and they're doing better or worse. We're basically comparing you to yourself. And that's why we set forth a timeline where we want to collect the data, but we think that timeline is in concert with academic best practices of administering interim assessments, not once a year, but multiple times during the year. I would refer people back to the memo, and I would say if you have any questions, feel free to reach out.
That's super helpful. Yeah, and if you have any comments, you should share them. That's what the public comment period is for, especially if you're going to want to complain in the future. It always helps to have been part of the public comment period in advance. I think with that, I will hand it over to our colleagues in New York City. The only open question is a New York City question.
Great, thanks, Anna. Good afternoon, everyone. And thanks, Erin, for joining. I will start just a quick announcement that we will be having the DOE-DOH call this Friday. I know we have some health questions, and I'm sure Erin is anxious to answer the 2-school closing rule question that we've been getting from a lot of you. But I'll just pop in the chat. If you haven't registered, we will be having the DOH-DOE call. The only thing I think that has really updated over the break, folks might have seen, is the updated travel advisory that started April 1st, which now says that as long as it's domestic travel, you don't have to quarantine. And I know this was a question a lot of schools had as folks were coming back from break, which is separate from the advice that was in place before, which was only applicable to vaccinated folks. So this is the separate of vaccination status. So I will go ahead and put that in the chat and then let Erin speak to you all about the 2-school closing rule. Hey, Erin.
Hey, yes. So we know that Department of Health and Mental Hygiene mentioned this on a call, but as yet there is no updated guidance here. The 2 positive case is still the guidance, is still the policy. I believe in some limited circumstances they may realize that closure due to 2 cases is not necessary, but that is definitely an exception, and the 2 unrelated positive case is still the guidance. Yeah, so that is the answer there.
Got it. Thank you. And then, Erin, we got a question in advance that I wanted to ask you regarding someone wanting to know that if a school is 100% remote, but would like to have the option of giving their students a space to either take the NISLAT or the 3 to 8 testing, are they able to come to the DOE to have some help getting space?
That's a great question.
I don't know if it is a co-located or a private space school, I should preface, so.
Got it. I think that we do have that question out to folks. I can expect that if you have a parent that is insisting that they take it and you do not have the infrastructure to provide it, that there may be accommodations available. I would caution folks not to offer all of your families the opportunity to take a test, but not be able to provide the siting for it, because district schools are going to be faced with a lot of the same capacity limitations, staffing limitations that you may be faced with. So just please keep that in mind. But we are looking into that question, and we'll definitely let folks know.
Great. And then the only other question we had in advance was also about relating to use of the gym, and if there had been any updated guidance on using gyms in co-located space.
So there is no updated guidance on the gym space. I know that we're getting this question a lot as some of the athletic leagues are kind of coming back in, but the guidance for using DOE space for those practices and for competitions, which would come later this spring, has not yet been released. So currently the existing guidance on use of DOE space still stands, and the existing guidance on any after school programs only being available to students that were in attendance that day still stand. And we will definitely share any updated guidance as that changes.
Great. And I think that is all I have, unless Erin, you have any other announcements you want to share.
Yeah, just a couple quick announcements. So number one, last week on Monday, we sent out updated capacity guides to all of the charter schools that are located in DOE space. These capacity estimates are very bare bones estimates of how many students are able to fit in each classroom based on a 3-foot model and a 6-foot model. Again, no updated guidance currently exists that allows students to be within 3 feet of each other without some kind of barrier. And we're looking for any kind of updated guidance from the state and from the city related to that implementation. So we will definitely share as that comes, but we wanted to share out the numbers so that folks can begin planning. So one update there. And then we have received word that we expect information related to DOE summer school to be released sometime next week. So definitely look for more there. I think that as folks are planning your summer and your fall, just be advised that in the event that charter students are eligible to participate in this programming, the expectation is that they would have to commit to the full programming. So this has been consistent with years prior, where they have to attend for all of July and then the portion of August. So we have a lot of charter schools that are considering starting earlier in August, and that may mean that your students, if they are eligible, would not be eligible to participate because your school would start prior to the end of the programming. Finally, Corey mentioned the change in the guidance. So just to make sure that folks are aware, the screener is up to date to reflect that domestic travel no longer requires quarantine. So if you are a charter school that operates your own screener, you are more than welcome to update your screener to match the DOE's.
Great.
And those are my updates.
Thanks, Erin. And then a question just came in from Sandy at the end. Are there any updates on getting permits for using school grounds for summer camp?
So no updates yet. I anticipate that we'll be able to share more once the information related to DOE summer programming is announced.
Great. And I think with that, we are done with our questions. I'll turn it back to you, Anna or Yumika.
Oh, you, Yumika, I don't see any others.
Yeah, I think we're all set. Thank you, everyone. Like I said, you'll see the updates on anything that changes or finalizes in the budget that's different than what we've updated now. Check out the links that we dropped in the chat for the scholarship and the tuition rates and much, much more. And other than that, we will see you next time. Enjoy your week.
Bye, everyone.